Greetings, boils, ghouls, and non-biased scaries. And welcome to the Spooptober Pastathon for 2020. Yeah, we had a bit of a wait for this one. Yeah, you actually had an opportunity to do it on National Coming Out Day. I had a whole bit for that one, but you didn't do it. Oops. I'll go to what are we reading?
I thought we left him in the cave.
Wait, he was with us? Yes. Shit. Means I should have paid for 3 tickets, not 2. Anyway. We're reading Ted the Caver. I'm Llytic.
I'm Ichi-Tan.
Yep. And we are picking up where we left off last time, which would be February 10th, 2001.
Damn.
One of the things I didn't mention before, like, this isn't just like an OG creepypasta. This is actually considered by some to quite possibly be the first, like, creepypasta.
Well?
Yeah. So, yeah. This is some fucking history.
Nice.
Weird that it took us 3 years to get to it. Guess that'll happen when we keep doing nothing but reading, like, Frollo fanfiction.
God.
There's still more of that you haven't even seen any of it, so...
Oh, okay.
That might be spookier than the creepypastas.
I don't know, man. Fucking... You fucking going cave cryptid on me the other day was pretty fucking spooky.
I did not go cave cryptid on you.
I would blink and you'd be halfway up a fucking cliff like it was nothing.
Well, if you're upset about it, grow longer legs. You know, like those comic book covers we were looking at.
Oh my god. Fucking girl's fucking thigh was as long as her goddamn torso.
Frank Miller for you. Man can't draw feet, so he does everything he can to avoid it. Like making the legs impossibly long, or covering the floor in fog. Just the floor. Anything you can do to get out of, like, drawing feet. Anyway.
Alright. So, am I reading the first part?
I mean, generally I start, but if you want to start.
Oh, I didn't know, because you were just going off on your little tangents.
I do that sometimes.
Yes, you do.
Scarcely 2 weeks had gone by, and already we were on our way back out to work in the cave. We admit we had become obsessed with the idea of getting through the passage. That may be a sign of how exciting our lives really are.
Oof.
Mood. It's just a big mood. It's not that we think there's going to be anything great beyond the passage. We just like the idea of being the first humans in the face of the planet to ever set foot in a virgin part of the cave.
Typical male behavior.
Fuck. Fuck. It's like anyone who's ever tried to hook up with me. I'm going to be your first, are you though?
Are you?
Woo! Although if we found a hidden treasure, that would be fine with us.
Let's see. Okay. We got a late start and drove part of the way in the dark. When I tell people that I go caving at night, they wonder why. They don't stop to think that it's always night once you're inside the cave. All the way out to the mystery cave, we talked about new ideas to speed up our work. I mean, yeah. Straight up, like,
yeah.
I don't know. But I think one of the things that scares me the most about caving is, like, the fact that you can't tell the time of day or anything like that, or
It's like
just
being in quarantine. Wait.
oh, oh, oh.
What day is it?
Fuck, what day is it?
17th. I wasn't actually expecting you to try and answer that one.
Sorry. I just. Anyways, new ideas to speed up our work. B also told me he talked to some caver friends of his that came up with an explanation about the rumbling noise. They thought it might be the sound of water deep within the cave, possibly a waterfall. They couldn't really explain why the noise seemed to come and go. To me, it is just one more reason to get through, so we can solve the mystery.
You know, it's like high tide, but underground. It starts receding, run. So you get hit by a tsunami. Right, what do you want?
Attention.
Like, I just have, like, my hand down, and all of a sudden just, like, runs up and shoves his face in it. I'm not talking about the spider thing currently hiding out on my bed. I had that! This trip, we took B's dog, Whip.
Whip.
Fuck, like, oh god. All I can think is just... Now I'm just thinking about fucking cars now. Not, whoa, phrasing. Yeah, well, my Whip's better than any of y'all's. Yeah, what kind of car is it? Holds up dog. Terrible joke, I know. Pulling my arm. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. She's a Jack Russell Terrier. I was not at all concerned about taking the dog into the cave.
Well then.
I would... We've taken her before. She answers the call of nature before we go in, and then waits until we get out again. She's also well behaved inside the cave. We have to simply lower her via. We simply had to lower her via a custom-made harness until she reached the bottom of the main drop. Then she negotiated the rest on her own. She loves to explore, but won't go out of our sight. She doesn't have a light attached to her, so she has to wait for us. Another reason I don't mind bringing Whip along was because we planned on putting her into the small hole to see how far into the passage she would go.
Evil.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
I don't like that at all. That's abuse.
Well, it is one of those whole things of like based on how they said, it seems more like how far she'd be willing to go. So just like put her at the entrance and see how far she's like willing to walk forward. Not like forcing her to go forward. But because this is a creepypasta.
Yep.
Don't pull on a Rocky and kill the dog. Might give us an idea of what was on the other side. We knew that if there were a drop-off that we couldn't see, the dog would turn around and come right back out. Yeah, like that's what I meant. Like the dog's not gonna just fling itself. We thought we might have to do some work on the hole before we could even get the dog, before even the dog could get through. It's a really tight hole. Wait, no.
Yes.
Let's not mix that conversation and dogs. We don't need a fucking Whitney, Wisconsin situation on our hands.
Ugh.
Oh, I just threw up in my mouth a bit.
Ew.
Anyway, your line. That's a cute dog.
That is a cute dog. Despite working in the dark of the night. Okay, sorry. My brain went to a song. We were able to rig up.
From Anastasia, I think.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly where my brain went.
Fucking undead Rasputin.
Just going ham.
Such a weird song.
It is.
Never understood the cologne line.
Let's see.
It kind of comes out of nowhere.
It does. Let's see.
Why are you looking at me all sad?
Attention.
One of the dogs just in the corner, like sitting hunched over, just looking at me with a sad look on his face.
Because you're obviously not giving enough attention.
Because whenever I do give him attention, he tries to break my shins.
I mean, is it? I can't remember what I was gonna say. Anyways,
I'm just laughing because every time you do, like, you start to like say something, all I see is just fucking Midoriya's mom. Not sure how I feel about Midoriya's mom hitting on me.
Well, I mean, you're tall and skinny like Small Might, so.
God damn it.
I win. Let's see.
But at what cost?
I don't care what the cost is. I won. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, we were able to rig up and get down pretty quickly. We didn't take as many tools as last time. Plus, we left some in the hole, so we wouldn't have to go to haul them back out and back in again. I did manage to get 2 more batteries for the drill for a total of 4. Also, a few more masonry drill bits. Even with the dog, we made good time getting down. Then something bizarre happened that I can't quite explain.
The dog began exploring as soon as we let her off the rope. She was in dog heaven, sniffing, darting about around our feet. She would run from one person to the other as we made our way back to the worksite. At one point, the cave splits into 4 passages. At the point the cave splits into 4 passages, the dog seemed to run out of juice. Yeah, you need to make sure to recharge your dog. Like, sometimes people forget that and it runs out of power.
Yeah.
I don't really have anywhere else to go with that joke.
Recharge your dogs, people.
Recharge your dogs. Yeah. Let's see. She just stuck right by either B or me. That seemed kind of odd. As we progressed further into the cave, she would only stay by B. She seemed edgy. Fucking emo kid. I don't know. I had a joke and then my mind blanked. Like she saw something she didn't like. As we approached the short drop-off before the hole, she stopped and would only come further after we coaxed her. The hair on her back stood on end. Finally, as we got within 20 feet of the hole, she began to whimper and hide behind B. Her tail was between her legs, and she was cowering down on the ground. Strange! I'm not, what? I guess it is a journal, it's just weird that that's, like, exclamation marked.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
I've seen her square off with dogs twice her size, but now she acted as if Satan himself was lurking in the darkness.
He probably was.
He's a weird dude.
Yeah.
I figured there must have been animals that used the cave as a home and Whip smelled their scent. Too bad it upset her because there was no way she was going into that passage. Hooray! The dog's not going in the hole.
See.
Considering all the jokes we made about the hole, that's a good thing.
Yep. So see here. We decided that with this new development, the nervous dog, one of us would work while the other stayed with the dog a few feet away from where we normally rested. We got right back into our routine of drilling, hammering, etc. With our extra supply of batteries, we were able to really push hard on the drill and not have to worry about using up the batteries. This did not make the work any easier, but it did speed things up a bit. Progress was still slow. I don't really mind, though. I really didn't mind, though. I can't fucking read today.
I noticed.
But
yeah, I think part of it is the fact that it's like slightly confused looking Midoriya's mom that makes me laugh. Like not really sure what's going on, so it's just.
Well, it was one of the only photos of her that I could find on the internet to use that wasn't her just all up in All Might's biz.
You know how long it took for me to not find lewds of this woman?
I was like, y'all need Jesus. And I don't say that often.
My journal goes on for a while about the progress we were making. The entire time we worked, Whip did not move. She just laid there on the rope bag, shivering. She would whimper from time to time. One thing I didn't think about at the time was she would not take her eyes off the hole. We should have been more observant to this intuitive animal.
Damn fucking straight. See, that's one of the things that always upsets me about horror movies that involved animals. And one of the animals are like, yo, something's up. We shouldn't be here. Everybody always ignores the animals and die. And I'm like, that's why you don't ignore the animals. They know what the fuck's up.
Sometimes, anyway.
Huh?
I don't
You
know.
said it. Oh.
I said sometimes, anyway.
Yeah. Alright, let's see here. We were on our 4th battery when the second bizarre thing happened to us. B was working. He had just finished drilling a hole and was getting ready to hammer the bullpen when he stopped working and looked into the hole. I was kicking back, almost asleep, and hardly paying attention to B. He had a light by his side to illuminate the work area. I could see in the eerie glow a puzzled and intense look on his face. He looked over at me and shook his head. I asked him what was up. He said that he swore he just heard a strange noise emanating from the hole. He said it sounded like rock sliding on rock. Sort of a grinding sound.
Oh, that's just me falling off the ledge I was on.
I assumed his ears were just ringing from the drill. He didn't. Huh?
I guess hello to whoever that is.
Oh, it was my roommate. She didn't realize we were recording.
Yeah. I heard, I didn't quite hear what she said, but I heard her. It's like, well.
Oh. They have to go run some errands, and she's got a migraine, so she was asking if I had any non-prescription sunglasses. And I was like, no. All my sunglasses are prescription. Let's see here. Anyways, I assumed his ears were just ringing from the drill. He didn't wear any earplugs this trip. He assured me...
Sorry, I was going to say, that's the thing that actually has me the most concerned is the fact that, the drill and all that near the dog, sound-wise.
Oh, yeah.
That's the part that honestly, upsets me the most.
Is that poor dog's ears.
Yeah. It was it's hard to force a dog to go in a direction it doesn't want to go. But the sound thing, that's...
yeah.
That's
just mean. Okay, let's see here. He assured me he heard what he said he heard. I didn't have an explanation, so I went back to dozing. B sat in the quiet of the cave for a long time before he resumed work. Also, he would stop from time to time and just listen. B is very grounded and not one to pursue pursue some imaginary sound. I believe he heard something, but I'm not too concerned about what it was. I assume we will figure it all out once we get through the passage.
Bam. I started trying to do the beginning of Roundabout, but I forgot the pattern. Just suddenly, like, to be continued meme. Final battery lasted another hour or so. We were sitting around talking about our progress when I decided to see if I could get my head through the hole. My head easily fit, but there was no way my shoulders were going in. Yeah, that's
What she said.
kinda just... What? What are you doing in bed that requires your shoulders to go in?
I met
Is this
this
that joke
lesbian
we made?
giant the other day,
Oh,
and
I was gonna say, are we going back to that joke that was made earlier about the giant stripper?
yes.
Well,
You started it.
yes, I did. I did. Also, I guess I cut you off. What was that about a lesbian giant yesterday?
That's what I said. That's what I said yesterday when I was with my lesbian giant girlfriend. I was like,
I don't think my shoulders are gonna fit. Also, I'm still sore from earlier this week.
yeah.
I know. I mean, if your shoulders won't fit, mine definitely won't.
I have surprisingly broad shoulders for a girl, so.
Yeah, meanwhile, like, my shoulders are noticeably wider than my hips.
Yee.
Let's see, where were we?
Shoulders wouldn't fit.
Oh, right. That's how we got to this point. As I was kneeling there, contemplating how close we were, I noticed something that B overlooked. The wind had stopped. That's...
What?
Well, like, airflow's not going to just suddenly...
This makes me uncomfy. This makes me very uncomfy. Are you there? Hello? 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 Well, I can only assume the spider demon finally got him. What a shame.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Where did I cut out?
The breeze stopping. Like you something be overlooked, the wind had stopped.
Yeah, something be it overlooked, the wind had stopped. Which, that is pretty fucking weird, I will say that. Like, that's...
Yes.
Like, that's not going to just suddenly stop, so...
No. Unless it wasn't really wind and it was just something breathing.
It was actually... Fuck, I just remembered that Dr. Dolittle, like, Robert Downey Jr. movie happened. Fuck.
That was a bad thing?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Were you looking forward to the movie in which, like, Robert Downey Jr. probes a dragon's asshole?
I did not know that happened. What
in
the
order
fuck?
to help it with an intestinal blockage. Like, you know that thing in the trailer of, like, the roaring thing? Like, where he's in, like, that, like, cave or whatever?
No, I don't remember.
Like, his hair's being blown back and all that shit?
Yeah, no, I don't remember most of the trailers. I just know that they were making another Doolittle movie using Robert Downey Jr., and me and my roommate were kind of excited about it because we were like, oh, Robert Downey Jr. and stuff.
Well, I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be closer to, like, the original, like, books and all that.
Well, yeah, that's what it looked like, so that's another one of the reasons why we got excited.
I don't think the original books involved a dragon farting in the main character's face.
You don't know that.
Uh,
You don't know what kind of kinks that author had.
he was writing those books for his children.
Yeah. And there's people out there that think that Alice in Wonderland was supposed to be a kid's book. It wasn't. It was political satire.
Well, yes, but that's something that you very much can give to children. I mean, hell, a lot of it is a whole thing. Like, one of the good examples of that is the blue caterpillar, whose whole thing is, like, just ignoring whatever Alice says because, Alice is a child.
Yeah.
And yet, for some reason, people keep trying to make the blue caterpillar a fucking mentor character when he should be the exact opposite. He should be, not helpful at all.
Yep.
Anyway. Last time we were out working on the cave, the wind was blowing worse than ever. Even earlier, we remember the breeze cooling us off. But now, nothing. B said he did not know when it stopped. The rumbling had ceased too. Bizarre.
Bizarre. Let's see here. This plain old cave was becoming mysterious. We talked for a long time in the dark of the cave. We debated what could possibly be causing these unusual events to occur. I think part of the reason we were sitting in the dark was because we were both too hammered to move. We could come up with no reasonable...
Wait, what?
I think they meant hammered in the sense of being tired, not, like, drunk.
Okay. We brought, like, a few brewskis down, too. Oh, we really regretted that. We could not get back out. You ever tried spelunking drunk?
That sounds like an awful, terrible idea.
It is. Lost a few friends that way.
Oi.
I mean, they were sober. I was the drunk one.
Oi! Did you go on a killing spree again?
I don't think it's technically a killing spree if it's accidental.
Anyways. See, we could come up with no reasonable explanation for the strange things happening in the cave. After sitting for at least half an hour, we slowly loaded up our gear and started for the surface. Whip couldn't be happier to get out of there. Once again, we left some of the tools in the cave. We just put them in the hole. Not enough people to use the cave to worry about. Plus, we were too tired to care.
Ah, yes. Stick it in the hallway. We made a lot of progress this trip. It helps that we have the extra batteries. We still have a long way to go, but it sure is nice to see how far we've come. And there's a nice little shot of that gaping hole.
Yeah.
Which is apparently large enough to fit a human head in. Not the shoulders.
Just the head.
Just the head. Just the tip.
Just the tip. Yeah.
Yours.
What?
Your line.
Oh. The rest of the journey... the rest of the journal entry talks about climbing out of the cave, getting a room at the hotel, and crashing. We were beat. Beat that beat.
Well, yeah. Trying so hard to get into a hole do that to you.
Yep.
Just ask anyone who's ever tried to hook up with me.
Goddamn.
In retrospect, I can't believe how casual we were about everything that was happening in the cave. At the time, the only thing we could think about was getting into the passage.
Typical men behavior.
Nice. Apparently they were just skipping foreplay. Or is that what the drill's for?
I don't know, but it seriously just gives me those vibes of like pretty much any teen horror movie where like the guy always dies because he's too busy trying to get into the girl's pants when she's like, "Hey, there's something happening."
It's a metaphor for sex. We find out that this is actually all just an elaborate retelling of the death of Maui.
Oof.
You know that story?
Oh yeah.
Spoilers for Moana. You see, someone thought it would be a good idea to tell Maui that he should turn into a worm and try to squirm his way into like the Capua equivalent of Mother Earth. Upon realizing that something was trying to squirm its way into her vagina, she grew obsidian teeth down there and crushed him. You know, I'm really not sure why they decided to keep that scene in and not cut it, but you know.
I mean, it's his fault. He was supposed to be a worm and he went more like a fucking like boa constrictor.
I mean, I guess that's one way to solve the fucking problem. It's like, job.
There's actually a movie about that. Like,
It's called Teeth.
yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting movie to watch.
So fuck.
But would not recommend watching it if you are.
It's a great date night movie.
Oh, such a great date movie. It really is. Because then it gives that guy the idea that, like, he better not touch you without consent, or else, you know, you might have a pair of teeth down there too. Chomp, chomp, motherfucker.
I mean, they actually do make a device for that, like...
Oh, yeah,
because it was either that the movie was inspired by, like, the reason that device was made, because it was, like, an actual, like, series of events that led to that device being made.
Yeah, I think it was a doctor, a female doctor in, like, Africa or something that made it, but it's basically called an anti-rape device, and
yeah, that is literally what it is. Basically, it's like a diaphragm full of spikes.
Yeah, and you kind of it's made of the same like silicone material that like you know, a period cup would be, and so you just kind of like insert it up in yourself, and then if
you've got a lamprey mouth in there now.
And if somebody decides to try to do things against your will and they stick up in there, that thing literally acts like basically when they pull out, the spikes hook in.
And yeah, because the spikes are all pointing like inward.
Yeah. So when you go
like,
in,
backwards.
When you go in, it's like, oh, okay, but then when you pull out, that's when you fuck yourself big time. And the only way you can get it out is to literally have it surgically removed.
Yeah.
And that's how they catch you.
Yeah.
So don't be sticking your Twinkie in a girl's hoo-ha without her consent.
I mean, that's just general good advice, and like, regardless of that.
Yeah, just don't do it, because you don't know. And even if you did, don't do it. Just don't do it.
So, thing is, earlier this week, because I remembered it whenever I went to go to sleep last night, because it was like, wait, shit, am I going to have to deal with that again?
Deal with what again?
Alright, so I had like the weirdest dream turned nightmare earlier that
God.
Night before last. It started out with like some sort of whole thing of like a horror festival. Like, for some reason, ended up hanging out with like the female lead of Teeth, even though I'm pretty sure that was not the same person. And for some reason, like there was this weird thing going on where just like literally flashing back to scenes, and I think at one point I straight up said, "Are you just gonna keep using that clip?" But one of the things that happened was like a scene in which someone gets their dick bitten off, but for some reason the person this happens to is Professor McGonagall.
What the fuck kind of drugs are you on?
So that happened. But the way this turned into a fucking nightmare was all of a sudden like weird parasite thing that would just like latch onto people's throats, like was like skin colored and like so it would blend in. And then from there it would just like fucking rip it out and then go on to the next person. So that started killing people and I just fucking noped out of there and like spent an entire night like as far away from that situation as I could be.
Me, anytime there's social interaction.
Me, whenever people's throats start ripping themselves out. It just started out as like a weird dream, and then people's like throats started getting ripped out. I was just like, I'm leaving. Which
Like
came
you.
back the next morning, and all of a sudden, a whole bunch of corpses that are covered in tar, like road tar.
Well then.
Like some note saying that it was done to like purge the area or some shit.
Well
It's
then.
weird. And then like last night, start to go to sleep, and I just remember that happened, and it was like, oh shit, am I gonna have to deal with that dream again? Anyway.
Oh boy.
In retrospect, I can't believe how casual we were about everything that was happening in the cave. At the time, the only thing we could think about was getting into the passage. Wait, no, I said that part. Not even dedicating any time to... That's right, that's why I made the joke, was... The drill was for foreplay. I'm gonna do, like, what happened in the first episode of Unis Honest and just, like, put it through a dildo.
Show you some real speed, baby.
Oh, yeah. Well, like, because I don't know if you've watched any of it, but the first video they did was just titled "Cooking with Sex Toys,"
Well then.
and so like they went out, bought a bunch of sex toys, and for an egg beater, they took the dildo, they took a dildo, took a power drill, and just drilled the power drill into the dildo,
Nice.
and so like they just like having that thing spinning, and they're just like putting it into a bowl of eggs to break him up.
That's exactly how you cook eggs.
They used a flogger to mix pancake batter.
That is exactly how you do it.
It was a whole thing of like they're eating the breakfast, and Mark has like one of the gags that has the hole in it. And so they're piling up like eggs, bacon, and pancakes onto like a fucking paddle and just like pouring it through the hole. Like shoving it through the hole.
Oh boy.
And as this is going on, they get a knock at the door.
Ah, yes.
Like just some guy looking through the windows like, what the fuck am I seeing?
That is exactly like 50 Shades of Grey has lied to you. That is exactly how you're supposed to do everything with those kinds of instruments.
That's what that gag's for.
Yes.
I've also heard it referred to as the competitive hot dog eating gag.
Yes.
Slide right on down. Anyway,
Well,
everything else was just a minor distraction. I do recall thinking it would be nice to get in and see how the mechanics of the cave worked, where the wind was coming from, what was making noise, etc. Now, weeks later, I think of my ignorance and naivete, and shiver.
Shiva.
As they try to press on into this glorious hole.
Oof.
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 Am I the right section? Whoa, I went back to front page. That's what... I was like, this doesn't seem... Nope, okay, I did click the right one. Never mind. We are now on March 3 through 4. 2001. Your line.
I see. It took us 3 weeks before we got back out to the mystery cave again. Our attitudes have changed a bit since we first started the project. In the beginning, we looked at the whole thing as a fun adventure. Since the last trip out, we found ourselves taking a more serious approach. On the drive out this time, our conversation was a little more subdued than before. We hadn't talked much since the last trip. Not for any reason but scheduling conflicts. Instead of discussing ways of getting through the passage, we found ourselves talking about rational explanations for what had happened. Neither one of us had any ideas that would explain the unusual occurrences we experienced on the last trip. We were amused to find out that neither one of us had talked much about the last trip to other people. This is a complete reversal from other trips. It has been fun to report to friends and family about our progress. It is always fun to tell people about the tight squeeze we're going to have to go through to get into the passage. Most people have little desire to voluntarily subject themselves to incredibly tight places. Actually, neither do I, but I will do it in order to get to the other side. Good motivation.
I typically talk to my family about getting into tight holes.
Yes.
And how just normal occurrence. Fuck. I was gonna make a joke about this whole thing being a metaphor for pickup artistry, but well, holy shit. Fuck, we are too immature for this.
We are way too immature
Not
for
even
this.
in like this. It's not even like, oh, this story is too like scary for us. It's like, wow, keep making jokes about vagina. Speaking of the shape of that hole, you see the picture?
Yeah.
We left town early in the afternoon to beat traffic. I don't really recall what time we finally got to the cave. Like I said, mood was subdued. We got rigged up and started down. Obviously, B left the dog home this time. You ain't taking your whip out for a ride? We took essentially the same gear as last time. We left some of the tools in the hold to save our backs the agony of hauling the extra weight. Even with the gear, we got down in good time. We really have a good system for getting up and down. There's only one minor mishap this trip. B scraped his arm on the descent. Not real bad, fortunately. He waited until we got all the way to the hole to patch it up. Just a superficial cut. While he was getting the wound cleaned up, I started working. We both took note that the breeze was back and rumbling present. We had 4 fresh batteries and 4, or maybe 3.5, fresh arms. I had high hopes that we'd be able, that this would be the day. It started pretty slow. When we first started working on the hole, the thickness was about 3 inches. As we have enlarged the hole, the thickness has increased. I know it's 2001, but I swear. As a result, our progress has become slower. Still, we continued with as much energy as we could put into the work. Hole was big enough.
Hole is big enough. Whoop whoop.
I'd hope. Otherwise, you got other problems on your hands. At least, for me to put the hammer into the hole for... That a metaphor? Is that what you call it?
And there's a picture of the hammer in the hole.
You have to take pictures of your hammer in holes.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Why do you pull out the camera while you... Why are you pulling out the camera now? It's for later. Then put the camera into the hole to take a picture of Floyd's tomb.
Oh boy.
Baby, why is your vagina nicknamed Floyd's tube? Well, it's a tight squeeze.
It's been nice to see a pile of broken rock below the hole get bigger and bigger. We both realized that we are just going to have to put a certain amount of work in order to get through. So we just get down to business. We don't usually talk much while we work, since one of us is making a lot of noise with the drill or hammer. Break times are used to chat momentarily about whatever topic pops into mind. The breaks take place whenever the guy that's working decides to switch roles. We both put in some pretty good work sessions. I have a little more stamina than B, but he gets just as much done in a shorter amount of time due to his upper body.
I mean, sometimes you gotta take turns, you know?
Due to his upper body strength. We still celebrate the small victories we encounter. Along the way, whenever a section we've been working on crumbles, we cheer. On the rare occasion that a fist-sized rock falls from the entrance, we whoop and holler. That's one small chunk of earth that no longer separates us from the passage. Separates us from whatever lies on the other side. I still harbor the fantasy that there's a hidden entrance to the other side of the passage, and years ago, Spanish explorers hid their treasures in the cave and sealed up the entrance. And it has remained untouched until we found it. B has a more realistic, although more mundane theory. He figures there is more cave on the other side. We'll see who's right.
I'm often looking for gold when I'm getting myself into holes. That one didn't quite have the same punch I was looking for. Oy. This trip out, I wanted to see if we could speed up the work by using larger masonry bits. I purchased some good-sized ones at the hardware store, at a good-sized price. One was larger in diameter than all the rest. Oh, big boy. The other was smaller around, but longer. I had pretty much concluded that the big one might be too big, and I was right. Need a second?
Mm-hmm.
Need a slight second. We tried to get it to go into the rock, but progress was very slow. We tried pushing for all we were worth, and all we got was tired. Mood. The larger bit just created too much friction area for our strength. It might have worked with a hammer drill, but we didn't have one. The longer bit worked fine with our drill. We relied on it for most of the work we did this trip. I thought we were going to be out one bit and a drill in my hand. Going to be out one bit and a drill in my hand when the bit broke off toward one end. I was pushing as hard as I could on the drill with but a few inches in the wall when it snapped. Mood. I nearly ran the drill through the wall from pushing so hard. We were able to retrieve the bit and keep using it, minus a couple inches. Been there.
Done that.
You know, when you lose a couple inches but just still have to keep going.
Eat.
The worst part is always the snapping noise. Still worked great. Only once in a great while did we resort to hammer and chisel. Work was proceeding as normal until about the time we were on our fourth battery. You there?
Yes.
Okay.
I was stretching. Let's see here. I was kneeling down and working the drill slowly into the wall at the time. Yeah. I had my earplugs in, my safety glasses on, and was lost in my own thoughts. Suddenly, over the squeal of the drill wearing down the rock, I heard a strange noise. It was loud. I could hear it over the noise of the drill, even though I had the earplugs in. At first I thought it was just the drill bit doing its job on the cave. It would frequently complain by screeching and whining as we forced it into the wall.
Oh.
But this was different. It took me several full seconds to comprehend this was coming from inside the hole and not the bit.
I hate when there's just, like, a lot of noise coming from inside the hole.
Yep. I stopped drilling and yanked my earplugs out just in time to hear the most terrible scream I've ever heard trail off and echo into the darkness of the cavern. I stare wide-eyed at the hole. For several moments, I did not move, nor did I breathe. I turned to look at B. Moments earlier, he had been lying on the rope back, catching a nap. Now he was standing upright, mouth open, with a look of concern on his face. I turned and looked into the hole again, happy expecting to see Llytic's face staring back at me. Oh, I'm sorry, demon face staring back at me.
Wait! Hold up!
Nothing was
You
different. You love me, though. See, nothing was different in Floyd's tomb. I fixed my gaze on the back of the squeeze where the limits of my light reached. There was no motion, only darkness beyond the reaches of my light. In the complete silence that followed, I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. Not another sound could be heard in the cave. Suddenly I heard a scraping noise behind me and straightened up. I nearly knocked myself out, hitting my head on the overhang. It was just B moving to turn on his light. But I was so wired it nearly sent me to my grave. B spoke again and I jumped. He said to get some rocks and put them into the hole. He explained that whatever animal had made that noise might be able to get through the hole. I immediately grabbed a few rocks and hoisted them through the opening. Using the handle of the sledgehammer, I slid the rocks as far back into the tunnel as I could reach, creating a wall between us and the other side. Since the squeeze is so small, it didn't take long. The entire time I was doing this, however, I was thinking that noise clearly did not come from an animal. I didn't know if B really thought it was, or if he was just trying to convince himself. I didn't say anything to him about what I thought.
Yeah, it is. Huh.
Yeet.
That would freak the fuck out of me.
Oh, hells yes.
Both in and out of context of the joke.
Oh, yes.
Hell, that started screaming at me. There'd be some real concerns.
Yep.
From the time it happened to the writing of this journal entry, 2 days later, I have tried to come up with some possible source for such a noise. To describe it, I would say it sounded like a cross between a man screaming in fear and a cougar screaming in pain. What kind of cougar? I need... Kidding. Sounded like it came from the hole and was roughly 100 feet away. Deep hole. Horrific noise reverberated through the cave and through my ears. B estimated the scream lasted 8 to 10 seconds. My best guess is about 5 seconds. 3 seconds while I was drilling, 1.5 seconds to drop the drill and yank the earplugs, and half second of sheer terror. It's difficult to tell how much time passes when you're listening to a solo from the depths of Hades.
Mood. Let's see. After I filled the back of the passage with rocks, we just sat there listening to the silence. My breathing was a lot more rapid than usual. Neither of us spoke for quite some time. Finally, B suggested we get back to work, but keep an eye out for movement in the hole. We put a light in the passage that signed to the back of Floyd's tomb. It It was only at this point that we realized the wind had stopped again and the rumbling could no longer be heard. To say I was nervous would be an understatement. I didn't say anything to B, nor him to me. Back to the drilling. B took over the work, which was fine with me. I wasn't exactly worn out, but I didn't mind being further from the hole. B would stop from time to time and listen. I just sat watching him with my light on. I wasn't close to the entrance to the hole, but I still found myself looking behind me down the passage to the still water. Every time my light would cast an unusual shadow, my heart would jump. My imagination was running wild. Oddly, B seemed to be less concerned about the strange noise than me. After a short time, he seemed focused entirely on getting through to the passage. I was still straining to listen above the sound of the drill. I heard nothing but the now familiar sound of carbide on stone. As I contemplated the possible scenarios which may play out on the other side of the passage, I found myself strangely getting somewhat excited again about getting through. It might have been fatigue taking its toll on my mind, or the thought of something valuable on the other side.
My thoughts were broken when B let out a yell. Possibly a cuss word. He said the drill battery was dying, but he hadn't quite broken off a large, relative, section he was working on. He set the useless drill aside and picked up a hammer and bullpen. He started wailing away at the hole created by the bit. After nearly 10 solid minutes of hammering, he sat back against the rock, sweating and nearly out of breath. The bullpen was still protruding from the cave wall. He held the hammer toward me, inviting me to take a few swings. I held up my hand and shook my head. I had been ready to exit this cave for quite a while now. He didn't press the issue. Without speaking, we both started gathering the gear we were going to take out. Once again, we stashed some of the tools in the passage. I was first to start toward the top of the cave. Several times I had to stop and wait for B. Not because he was moving slow. I was just more eager to get out. Few times have I felt better than that night, stepping out into the chilly night air.
My journal talks about the rest of the evening. Our dinner, our decision to get a motel and come back the next day, our lengthy discussion to the strange sounds we had heard, another mediocre night's sleep. I cannot believe that we were so willing to get right back to the cave after hearing the scream. Part of the reason I went along with the idea was because B seemed so indifferent to any possible dangers. Even if it were an animal, which I did not believe, but could offer no better explanation, weren't we possibly putting ourselves in harm's way? In retrospect, I still have difficulty understanding our thought process at that time. We were just too eager to discover the Virgin Cave passages. Now that I think it can be summed up with one word: testosterone. Ha! I was right. Sorry.
Wow. The story is making the jokes for us. It's amazing. February 13th. It's amazing what a few good meals and a little sleep can do for someone's attitude. Even though we still had memories of the strange noise fresh in our minds, we relit our fire of enthusiasm. The other side of the passage seemed so close. We were sure this would be the day. We got to the cave and started to work our way down to the hole. Getting back into the darkness of the cave brought back the memories of the night before. The side of the circle of rock illuminated by our headlamps. The smell of dirt in the air. The sound we made as we crawl across the rock. Once we reached the entrance to Floyd's tomb, however, we were once again ready to blaze the trail leading to an undiscovered part of the cave. We immediately noticed the presence of the breeze blowing out of the hole, and the rumbling.
I don't know why I beeped.
What beeped?
I beeped.
You beeped?
I went beep beep, and then I immediately was like, why did I beep beep?
I don't know. I didn't hear you beep.
Well, I beeped.
Well.
Don't ask me why. I don't know why.
Okay.
Leave me alone!
You're doing this entirely.
Anyways, the bullpen sticking out of its hole was an obvious sign of where we needed to begin to work for the day. B took over where he'd left off the day before. I took up residence in the same spot I occupied the night before. Even though I was already well rested and wanting to start work, B was making the hammer sing with each blow. After a 2 or 3 minutes, he let out a cheer. He turned to reveal a handful of rock that used to be attached to the cave. He was breathing heavy but had a big smile on his face. So did I. For the first time, the strange noise had been forgotten, and the vision of success captured our attention. Uh-oh.
Finally going to get in this hole.
Yeah, get in this hole, get in this hole, beep, beep, get in this hole.
Like I said, it's just pickup artistry. It's just pickup artistry.
It is. That's all it is.
Now, in today's session, we're going to teach you how to get in that hole.
Weep, weep!
Now, you need to have an alpha mindset. It's so fucking stupid. Anyway, the lower left-hand corner of the hole had been giving us grief because of the thickness of the wall at that point. The thickness is causing trouble for you, eh? We felt that if we could just remove that corner, we might be able to be on our way inside. Or we
Honey,
might
if you
be on
can't
our way
handle
inside.
thick, you in the wrong place.
You reposted in the wrong neighborhood. B now held in his hand the crumbled remains of the corner. Our excitement consumed us as we examined the hole. I took the hammer and pounded away at the surface of the hole.
Pound that hole.
The idea was to remove the jagged edges that would take their toll on my skin. Toll.
Toil.
The size looked right.
Yeah.
Now the moment we had been working for. I mean, if you can't handle some jagged edges... That's just more concerning, actually.
Okay. I cautiously approached the entrance to Floyd's tomb. I decided the best way to enter the small hole was to place one arm over my head, turn my head sideways, and slowly work my way in. I soon determined that this was not going to work. The hole was small. If I was going to make it in without widening the hole anymore, I was going to have to put both arms over my head in diving position, turn my head sideways, and slip into the tomb.
Oh, that's not good.
The width of the entrance was the limiting factor. The height was sufficient. The arms overhead position flared my shoulder blades out, but there was still room to get in. Plus, the arms overhead gave me the best squeeze side to side. This is bad. You're gonna get stuck. You're gonna die.
Like, that's one of... I hate the idea of going into a place where I don't have the ability to turn. I need to be able to turn my body. Like, if I need to get out, I need to be able to do that. So just squirming down something that's about the same width as me? No. No, dog.
Nah, dog. Yeah, dog. Shut the fuck up, dog. I'm sorry.
I can fucking fold myself in half with the best of them, but I still need, like, the room to do that. Something where I have to turn my head sideways is not gonna work. I cautiously approached the entrance of Floyd's tomb. Wait, nope. You said that one. In order to enter straight into the hole, I stood on my feet and bent over to get level with the entrance. My knees were bent and the position was uncomfortable. Sort of a semi-squatting position. Bent at the waist with arms overhead. Plus, I had to slightly turn my upper torso to the left in a counterclockwise rotation to negotiate the angle of the entrance.
Notice in the last photo, the entrance generally slopes up to the right. It's a butt!
Yeah, did you see what the text on it is?
Here's a
Here's a
flattering
flat-
photo of my best size. I mean, you do have a nice ass.
Notice the size of the area we had to work. You hear that, Ted? According to Ichi-Tan here, you have a nice ass.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as nice as the ass I saw the other day, but it's nice.
I'm sorry, are we talking about the lesbian giant you were apparently with, or?
Ooh, frick.
Because I can't exactly comment on that one.
I don't know, which one do you think I'm talking about?
Lesbian giant.
Undermine yourself
It's an
way too
upward
damn
view.
much. Phew.
Hey, did you say the blue?
Yes, I did say the blue.
Alright, and then we look at this boy's ass in blue.
Yeah.
I got my arms through the entrance with minor scrapes. Next came my head. By keeping it turned sideways, I was able to get in, for the most part, up to my shoulders. But I was definitely scraping many surfaces of my body. Ow.
Don't do that.
Don't sneeze?
Yeah.
Don't have allergies?
Yeah. Because
Right.
you hurt yourself.
Yeah, apparently I turned my neck too far. Let's see. I decided to just push through, keeping in mind that I was going to have to come back out eventually. The pain was not too bad, and I was in. No comment. Well, my upper body was in. At least I could get a good idea of what the tomb was going to be like.
Erp.
That. Okay.
No. Oh my god. So recently, I've been playing, so from the group that you introduced me to, I've been introduced to another group. And with this group, I've been playing Among Us. And every time I can't help it, because I have a lot of acid reflux gastro stuff, so I burp a lot.
Yeah.
And I burp and I'll say excuse me, and this person will say bless you when I burp, and it makes me so uncomfortable. I'm like, please stop doing that. He's like, well, you don't say excuse me. And it's like, I do say excuse me. And everyone's like, yeah, no, she does. And he goes, I'm still going to say it anyways because it makes you uncomfortable. And I'm like, I hate you. You make me feel like I'm doing the wrong body function, and I don't like it.
Well.
What the fuck?
What?
I mean, yes, that is how I look right now. Just concerned.
Oh, yeah, the concerned Inko?
Yes.
Like, I ended up just Googling Inko Midoriya and seeing what I could find.
Alright, so where are we at? Once inside the tomb.
Yep.
I had a few inches all around me in which to position my body.
The tomb is also what I call my vagina.
It's... This was the largest part of the passage, and it was conveniently located right at the beginning of the crawl. This gave me a little room to get positioned to crawl further into the passage. Inside the tomb gave me a whole new outlook of what it was going to be like to crawl through. Even though this was the largest part of the crawl, it was still small. I could still move my head around freely, but every direction that I turned, I was staring into a wall of solid rock. When I spoke to B, my voice sounded muffled, like I was talking into a small box. I could rest my chest on the passage floor, but the rocks were uncomfortable. I turned my head to look further ahead, but couldn't see past the wall of rocks I had built the day before. The squeeze towards the end of the passage was closer now. It appeared even narrower. I didn't know if I could squeeze through or not. I knew it would be close. I wanted to crawl further into the passage. First, however, I had to work to get some of the loose rocks that were lying in the passage floor out of my way. I was disappointed to find that most of the rocks that looked loose were actually attached to the floor. I was hoping to just scrape them out of the way. I had pushed the sledgehammer into the passage before me, so at this point I used it to push the rock wall we had made further back in the passage. Then I dragged the sledge back and forth across the floor to move any loose rocks or break up the solid ones. By sliding the head of the hammer under the squeeze, I determined that the narrowest part of the squeeze was about 7 inches high. I figured we'd have to do some work before I could slip through. This entire time I had my head in the passage, B was just kicking back, listening to my descriptions and progress reports. At some point, he snapped the photo shown above. Thanks, B.
Staring at my ass.
Yes. Up to this point, the size of the passage was not too big of a deal. I was in an incredibly small passage, but only my upper body was in, and since it was the largest part of the passage, my arms could move freely. I was pretty calm. Then it was time for a push.
Well, I slid the sledgehammer up as far as I could reach. Since my body filled the entrance, I could not slip the tool out, so it was easy to push it ahead. In order to rotate my hips to the proper angle to enter the hole, I had to lean my upper body on my forearms, use my feet to climb the wall outside the hole, and simply crawl into the hole. My hips barely fit. So I guess he doesn't have the same hip to shoulder ratio I do. Either that or he means that height-wise his hips barely fit. Boy's all caked up. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. No comment on that, so.
I was trying to behave.
Okay. Let's see. Once they cleared the entrance, I could relax a bit and get in position to work toward the squeeze. I decided to try the one-arm forward technique to get through. The passage was so narrow that whatever position I started with, I would have to stay through the entire length. There was no room to move around or change position. I would also have to turn my head one way or another and keep it in the same position. This crawl was tight.
Beep, beep. Moving forward at this part of the passage was relatively easy. I could use my forward arm, my left arm, to pull and my other arm to push. At the same time, I would wiggle my body, trying to arch as much as I could to keep my chest off the rocks. I tried both ways and determined that I would turn my head to the right. It felt the most comfortable. I began to learn things as I went. I determined that a small flashlight in one hand would be nice. Then I could shine it ahead and get a better idea of what I was about to crawl over. This was a difficult maneuver because I had to look overhead since my head was turned. It became immediately obvious that we were going to have to do some more work removing rocks from the passage floor. As I moved along the surface, I was constantly scraping my chest on the rocks. They were sharp and it was painful. Occasionally, I would cause a rock to slide along under my chest and actually wedge me between it and the top of the passage. I would then have to back up and either try to move the rock to the side with my cheek using a sweeping motion with my head, or back out and try to move it with my forward hand.
Well.
E.
Also, ow.
E.
My little trip into the passage represented a major milestone in my caving career. When I began caving, I did not feel overly comfortable going through tight spaces. Even the little squeeze at the beginning of this cave was an obstacle to overcome. By pushing myself and forcing myself to try the narrow passage, I have become much calmer about tight spaces. Still, this passage represents a new benchmark in small places. I have not been faced with anything this small. I don't remember having to take off my helmet before. With this passage, it's mandatory. As mentioned before, not only do I have to take off my helmet, but I have to turn my head to the side in order to fit. That's a picture that makes me uncomfortable.
The journey into the tomb went like this.
After I twisted my hips into the passage, I took a few minutes to stop and work out a game plan. Most of the length of my legs was still outside the entrance. They just dangled in the air. The tomb was still big enough to move my head around, and even my arms freely into position. Everywhere I looked, there were rocks. It almost rhymes. And not too far from my head. Any sound I made was muffled. Dead. The narrowest part of the passage was about 10 feet in. At this point, I was about 3.5 feet in. At about the 4-foot mark, I would have to commit to whatever position I felt comfortable, and stay that way until the 12-foot mark, at which time the cave started opening up. Again, somewhat uncomfortable.
Yes. Let's see. I went with my left arm forward and head turned to the right. B had given me a flashlight that I held in my left hand. As I inched forward, I would try to brush the loose rocks away with my left arm. This was somewhat successful, but there were a lot of rocks I missed or could not move. As mentioned, the first little bit of the crawl moved along fairly quickly. Since there was little room above me to negotiate the passage, then the wall started to close in around me. I had a few extra inches on each side of me, but the top of the crawl was getting very low. At about the 7-foot mark, I could feel the top rubbing my back as I would arch. Another half a foot, I couldn't arch anymore. I just had to push ahead with my toes and pull with my forward arm. I decided it would still be a good time to see if I could back out. I tried, and it was pretty easy. That gave me a lot more confidence. Still, I had B tie webbing to my feet, just in case he had to pull me out.
Yeesh. Also,
Yep.
there's the feet, with the webbing tied to it. That picture gives me anxiety. I dislike that picture.
Yes.
My neck was starting to get sore from being cranked to the side. My neck was starting to get sore from being cranked to the side. My head was getting heavy, but to rest it, the only option I had was to lay down on the broken rocks. It was painful, but I did it frequently. I was staring at the wall to my right. It was a mere 4 to 5 inches from my face. Most of the time, I wasn't watching the wall. I either had my eyes closed, which I do sometimes do when I go through a tight spot, or the light wasn't shining in a direction that did me any good. It was very quiet in the tomb, other than my own breath. I was breathing heavy from the effort it took to move. Thankfully, the breeze was present and cooled me off. By lifting my head and carefully touching the ceiling from time to time, I could gauge the size of the passage with my body, that my body would soon pass through, much like a cat using its whiskers to gauge an opening in a fence. By the 7.5-foot mark, I could tell things were about to get real tight.
Real tight.
Tight.
Let's see. While lying in the darkness in a passage deep within the cave, one is in a unique position to ponder. A mountain literally resting on top of me, the earth lying below. One tiny movement of earth, and I would cease to exist. Damn. Or worse, to recognize the fear shared by Floyd Collins as he laid there, trapped for days deep within the heart of Mother Earth, incapable of freeing himself from his earthen prison.
Yeah. Picture yourself in my position. Lying on your stomach, your left hand is extended over your head. Your right arm is at your side, having only a few inches in which to move. Your arms and hands are sore and bleeding from crawling/pulling yourself across the broken rocks. Your entire body is resting on the rocks. Your neck gets tired of holding your head off the rocks, so you gently rest your cheek on the rock to rest. Once again, you have to push with your toes to scoot your body forward, sliding across the rocks. After moving a few inches, you're breathing hard and have to rest. As you inhale, you feel your back pressing hard against the top of the squeeze. It takes a few minutes before you recover enough to press forward. The entire time you're lying there thinking about how you're going to back out. What if...
Well,
You there?
that's pretty much it. What I was going through at that point in the passage. Beep, beep.
That picture, no.
I don't like that. Looks fucking weird. He looks like he's just like, hey, I'm sliding into your DMs.
Sliding into your DMs like, ow! But yeah, like that picture. Anxiety. Just all of it. I decided this would be a good time to throw in a photo of the squeeze. The photo was actually taken on a different trip, but it shows how tight things were at that point in the passage. Notice my head turned to the side? Not by choice. And you can see how I would rest my cheek on the rocks. You can also see how difficult it is to look ahead of me. My arms are pinned to my side. I later determined that would be the best position. There was virtually no space between the top of the passage and my back. Tight. Not for the claustrophobically inclined. Claustrophobically inclined. English. I barely speak it.
English does not exist.
I think technically it does.
No. We all speak Simlish, and that's why Simlish sounds weird to us, because it is English. Tell me I'm wrong.
God damn it.
Let's see. When I reached the point where my back was rubbing and I could feel with my head the passage was not getting bigger, I knew that this was most likely... I knew I was most likely not going to get through. Still, I decided to give it one more push. I had been in this position a year ago. I would have been in a state of panic. But not today. I was pretty pumped. I took a few minutes to rest, then went for it. I exhaled completely all the air in my lungs. This caused my chest to collapse enough to scoot forward a few inches. Because it takes so much effort to scoot, I only went a few inches before I had to stop and breathe. As I inhaled, my chest pressed hard against the floor and my back against the top. It took a little longer to get my breath back. Unbelievably, I did it again. Dumbass. Exhale, scoot, rest. Again, only a few inches. Repeat. I took a few extra minutes to enjoy this position. Pinned in this small passage. Wow, I could not believe how relaxed I was. I tried one more time to exhale and scoot. My back was rubbing too much to continue. Despite the failed effort, I was psyched. I took several long minutes to lay there and recover from the effort. B had been encouraging me the entire time. It was fun to hear him cheer as he saw my shoes go deeper and deeper into the hole.
You can do it! From behind him.
Eat, eat, eat.
Stop screaming at my ass.
Eat, eat, eat.
Backing out was not too difficult, but it did take some work. I encountered the same obstacles as when I went in. After I wiggled my hips out of the hole, which took some time, I had trouble getting my shoulders out. Both arms were overhead at this point. My shirt was getting caught on the rocks, and my shoulders were brushing the sharp rocks. After struggling to find a good position, I gave up and just pulled my upper body out. Scrape. My shirt pulled up over my head, and I had some nice scrapes on my shoulders, but I didn't care. Hopefully you don't have sensitive nips. Because...
Nips.
Ow! Sharp rocks on your fucking nipples? No thank you. Prefer not to get stabbed in the nip. Let's see. Oh, I don't care. To me, this trip was a success. I pushed myself beyond what I thought was possible. I kneeled at the entrance and looked into the narrow passage I had just been in. The rock wall was now at the 11-foot mark. I had pushed it a little with my forward arm. The smallest point was the 9-foot mark. We were close. Between the work and the excitement, I was tired. I just sat on the rope bag, grinning. Trip.
The rest of the journal entry talks about the usual, our climb, out, dinner, trip home, etc. On our way home, we brainstormed and came up with some ideas that would help us get through. We both invented some tools to remove the rock on the floor, deep within the passage. We were both very excited by this trip. I from pushing my limits in the cave, and B from his success in climbing out of the cave. This was the first time he was able to climb all the way out without the help of climbing devices, nor my help. It was a personal success that showed the progress he has made since his accident. Pretty cool.
Which, of course, we got a few photos, the progress of the whole. Which, yeah, that is definitely the same spot on the rock. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remained amazed that we could so easily forget the terrifying moment we experienced just the day before. All had been forgotten, strange noises being blamed in our mind, but on some rational, harmless explanation. That is where we are going to leave that.
Oy vey.
Oy vey indeed. Oy. Yeah, so this has been pretty good. Like, main issues I've been having are all grammar related, but at the same time, the whole thing is that this is supposed to be a bunch of journal entries, so it makes sense that there would be some questionable grammar in that. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. Special thank you to our patrons, Summer Moon Soldier and Destiny Baird for supporting us. If you like what we do and like to support us in any way, then consider going down to that link in the description and pledging any amount of money you want. Like, completely up to you. Barring that, you can always just do the usual YouTube thing. Oh, you'll make fun of me. The usual YouTube thing.
YouTube thing.
You know.
Yep.
Liking, the commenting, and the subscribing. And the
Yes.
bell. Because there's so many fucking steps. Interaction. Interaction is what I mean. Anyway. Bye.
Boy.
Booey. Wait, he didn't leave. I misspelled Craig.
You misspelled Craig.
Stop it.
You said